Hello and happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, one and all.
Welcome to the Two Mats Q&A brought to you by the subscribers of the New European. Should we kick straight off?
Yes. Would it be better for Britain if Keir Starmer stayed abroad, from the intriguingly named Indignants in Leeds? Well, what do you think, Matt?
Well, I think of all the criticisms that I've got and heard of Keir Starmer, this...
Gap year Keir.
Oh dear. This isn't one of them. I am quite...
Bit harsh.
I think so. I think you can't have it both ways. You can't want the United Kingdom to be a player on the world, exactly, on the world stage, but never go abroad.
Yes,
I mean he has been away a lot.
Yeah, but I mean there's
a lot going on,
and also he's a new head of government. I mean we want him on the global stage. What worries me slightly about Keir Starmer is he's starting to be the person about whom everything he does is wrong. It's like when Tony Blair tripped the light fantastic as a new prime minister, going to all sorts of posh global meetings.
Yes,
he got fantastic press.
Yes.
America wowed, G7 wowed. Keir Starmer gets, why isn't he at home helping the farmers? And I just wonder whether, it'll get to the point in 6 months' time where, did you see the bastard had a cup of coffee?
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. I mean, you're 100% right, and I only just realised it when you said it. But there was somebody did it. Was it? I can't remember. It was Dan Hodges or Sam Coates or one of these commentariats said that Starmer's banned people on the plane from crowding round, and the journalists.
The huddle.
The journalists and this again, I don't know how I didn't know this, but I didn't know that they pay $4,500 to get on the flight. Being a journalist
you have to justify it to your news desk.
Oh, it's mad. So they're paying a lot of money to fly with Starmer. And apparently he said, I don't want any more of those obsequious shots with Harry Cole sort of slobbering all over me, writing down my every thought.
Actually, they look quite good, I think.
And he was photographed sitting alone in first class, drinking a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And you cast your mind back to the sort of innate, the ease with which the press can manipulate any message.
Yes.
It wasn't a man alone with his thoughts. It was a aloof Keir, the snob, the man jet packing back from his holiday, while all this chaos is brewing in Westminster. And as you say, it could easily be the other way around, international statesman.
Well, I mean, I remember some of the most impressive early shots of Obama when he was campaigning, where he was great at going down, whether it was the coach or the plane, and chewing the fat with the hacks. And it looked fantastic. Here was this young, dynamic presidential candidate, with this tie slightly loosened, answering questions, and the pictures were terrific, and they sometimes ran on the front of newspapers. I think it's a mistake.
I wouldn't mind if he spent a bit more time in Brussels working out how to get us back into the single market.
I think that's a 2020 that's Project 2025, isn't it?
Right, next question, please. If you were the EU, talking of which, if you were the EU and you thought the next UK government would bring a third change in UK position, why would you consider a change in membership from this government? From Mark in Glasgow.
I think it's the best. There are loads of anti-rejoining arguments or other problems. Most of them fall away if you think about the reality of where we are at. This is the one that I find hardest to answer, because if you're Brussels, you do want some level of certainty that if, let's say, the Tories, or God help us, the Tory reform government came in next, or even quite soon, they wouldn't reverse it immediately. And I'm afraid if one can get a Labour Party backed by the Lib Dems that's in favour of at least a closer relationship with the EU, then we're off to the races. The harder part is going to be this, and I it would be glib to say I have an answer to it, because I don't.
No, and the truth is, what we are sure of is that the European Union will want to see both main political parties sign up to this,
as is quite reasonable, because the dismantling of our relationship with the EU was so complicated on both sides that to go through it again would be exhausting for everyone. So I think that this is the bit of the whole project, if you like, that troubles me most.
All that said, I have no explanation to this day why Keir Starmer is so openly antagonistic towards those of us, the majority of us, I think now, who would consider Brexit to be a massive catastrophe and would look at a second referendum to rejoin very favourably.
Well, we've been thinking about this quite a lot at the New European, haven't we?
We have
and
for some time.
But I mean, specifically since he was being elected, and ways of how he might approach it. But I think you're obviously right. I mean, and also you're contextually right, because it's not just right in principle to want to be back into the EU. It's actually, I can't see how Starmer's going to do half of what he proposes to do with the growth he says is going to come outside the single market.
Well, Vicky Price, a very well-respected economist, has written our cover story this week, which is still on sale, good folks, at all good newsagents. And the cover is Starmer with his fingers in his ears and everyone saying rejoin. And she's saying, well, look, Keir, if you don't at least consider the single market as an option, your growth is absolutely not going to happen.
No,
so
and it's unarguable.
Right, so there we are. Next question. Thank you, Mark, for that one.
Well, this is for Matt. So I just read out Matt brackets Kelly. I think he doesn't spell it with the brackets, but anyway, may vary from generation to generation. Can you compare staying on X to combat all that toxic shit to arguing with some bigot in a pub? In the pub, you're going to use your better information to make them look stupid. On X, it would just be a pile-on, and they wouldn't even look at what you wrote after they'd labelled you woke. Pete from Derbyshire. Well, Matt Kelly.
Well, it's
brackets, close brackets.
I think they are. They are very different situations, Pete. I mean, the context of it is when the Guardian announced that they were fleeing X because they nobly retreating. The bugle was blaring.
In a terrible blow to Elon Musk.
They decided they couldn't take any more of the hostility, and they were going. I instinctively thought, the hell with that, and
axiomatically almost.
Well, completely. And I thought you can't use that as a justification for leaving an argument. I mean, besides which, there's no consequence to staying there and putting your arguments unless you believe that all these nasty words really do cause you some damage. Well, I'm well beyond that stage. However, if I would never go to a pub where I thought it was full of bigots, but if I heard a bigot in a pub say something, I'll be and I wouldn't be alone, I'm sure. I'd be the first to pipe up and say, "Shut your mouth, you fool." And I do think I wouldn't sit there in a pub and try and dissuade somebody intellectually from their bigotry. I would just tell them to F off.
Yes.
And say to the barman, by the way, there's a bigot over there. Are you happy he's in your pub?
Well, I've always believed in the principle we don't start fights, we finish them, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it really doesn't matter. I mean, first of all, X doesn't really matter that much at all, anyway. And so what if they pile on? I mean, let them pile on.
More pile-ons on me than I can remember.
Essex.
and you do become immune to it, but the fact that they're piling on, Pete, I think this is the point. You say it would just be a pile on and they wouldn't look at what you wrote after they'd labelled you woke, but the fact that they'd had to go through the motion to make the effort to pile on you, that's something at least.
Yes, and the best is when the bots get drawn in.
Yeah.
Anything to do with MAGA or conspiracy theories.
The ones with all the family names, with lots and lots of numbers.
And then they start, on one occasion, a couple of bots started arguing with each other. And that really was funny. That was like watching
an AI.
It was very amusing.
Brilliant. Thank you, Pete. We're going to take a very quick break. Come back in a couple of minutes for more questions. Hello and welcome back. Next question, please, from Dan Haywood on Spotify. Sorry, but no responsible commentators should be entertaining talk of referenda being a suitable avenue to progress, debate and decision-making. They are clearly incompatible with the rest of our democratic governing processes, and credible commentators would say so. Speaking as a credible commentator, Matt, what's your view on that?
You say the nicest things. Well, first of all, Dan Haywood, apology accepted. Sorry, at the top. We understand. Thank you. We are a forgiving podcast. Look, I don't like referendums any more than you, Dan. But I think it's going to be very hard, for example, to reverse Brexit without one.
Yeah.
I think they are now regrettably part of political culture. And, there was a huge gap, by the way. It was 1975, the famous EEC vote to stay in. And then the gap until... And then I think there were Scottish referendums as well then. And then you have just jamboree from 97 onwards. You get the Scottish and Welsh devolution referendums, tick. 1998 Good Friday Agreement referendums, north and south of the border, tick. 1998 London Assembly and Mayor referendum, tick. North East devolution 2004, not tick.
Yeah.
2011 electoral reform, not tick. 2014 Scottish independence, not tick. And then the disaster of 2016.
The biggest not tick of all.
The biggest not as tickus of all time. The problem is now they've become part of the, very regrettably, because I think I'm an old-fashioned believer in representative democracy. I think that it's a good system, but referendums are now, and not just in the UK, by the way, they're globally of greater and greater use. So I hear you, but I think it's a pragmatic case, really. If you want certain things to be done, and they should be kept to a limit. I mean, we should have referendums on many things, but I think that reversing Brexit is going to be one of them.
I think that's right. I think what a referendum giveth, a referendum has to be there to take it away.
Exactly.
And although I do have a lot of sympathy, like you, we live in... Everyone says, oh, democracy at stake, democracy dies of darkness. Well, there's different types of democracy, and we live in a very specific type of democracy called representative democracy, where we elect a representative who then represents our best interests in Parliament. And our best interests may not coincide with the popular will of his constituents. That's the whole bloody point.
That's the point.
And that's why...
Representative, not delegate.
Exactly, not a delegate. So that's why the whole point about the advisory nature of the referendum became so tortuous as well. That, yes, if it was truly an advisory nature, then that would be fine. Our representatives could look at it and say, well, we understand the popular will of the country, but it's an absolute bollocks. It's stupid. And the reverse of it would be, I guess, had there been, maybe not now, but 30 years ago, had there been a referenda on capital punishment, then we would still have capital punishment on the statute books today. No question. Maybe even today.
Might well today.
Maybe even today. So Dan is right in the sense that, it's regrettable that we are where we are. But I can't argue that, I just can't foresee it being politically possible for any politician to say, the hell with that, the hell with the popular view. This is what we're going to do. We're going to reverse the road we've been down. It does need a popular reversal of that referendum.
I mean, what would make me very happy for the rest of my life is if there's one more referendum that gets us back into the EU, and then we're done.
Well, I tell you what, we could have a referendum on referendums. We could
that's very postmodern.
Why don't we have a referendum?
That would confuse them.
The question would be, should all previous referendums be disregarded? Should we actually leave it to people who know what they're talking about?
But then you get into, can a referendum bind all future referendums?
If a referendum falls in an empty forest, can you hear it?
This got philosophical very quickly. Okay, Dan.
Great question. Thank you. Next question, please. From Tom Hollins. I was surprised to hear you being light-hearted about Trump's casual comments on a third term. Isn't this planting the seed? Staying in power is core to his psychological makeup. If he can weaken checks and balances, demonstrate the need, for example, the Constitution being subverted by deep state liberals, and then use emergency powers to stay in power, having put MAGA generals and the Supreme Court in place, then surely he will. That's from Tom Hollins. Matt?
Well, I'm sure that the President-elect does listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
Beautiful podcast.
Some say the best.
Some say, I don't know, too much with the impressions. Maybe too much. But what I don't think is true is that if Trump is indeed thinking of a third unconstitutional term as president, that we planted the seed, right? I don't think he said, hey guys.
Isn't Tom suggesting that it's him planting the seed?
Okay, well,
to get the ball rolling.
Okay, well, let's answer the charge, which is that we were frivolous when we should have been very serious about it. Here's the first thing, Tom, which is that this is going to be a long haul, right? Covering the second Trump presidency is going to be a long haul, and I'm afraid a bit of gallows humour is going to be essential to staying, having a reasonably cloudless mental health throughout it.
Yes.
And I also think that dark humour can sometimes be a way of getting the measure of a threat.
Yeah.
Which, to sort of circle back to you, Tom, of course it's a threat, and of course, it's classic Trump that he jokes about something that we all know he has at the back of his mind. Now, he'd be 82, and he'd be up against the 26th Amendment, which was passed after Franklin D. Roosevelt had
done 22 terms.
27 terms, 4, I think. But yeah. And so in order to actually run for a third term in office, he would have to do it the sort of legal way. You have to pass another amendment, which is fantastically difficult. You need 2/3 vote in both houses, Congress and Senate, and then you need 3/4 of the states to approve. And it takes years. So. Right. I don't think that's going to happen. He's not going to propose to do it legally. It's a watching brief. At minimum, he'll want his successor to be part of his dynasty or part of MAGA, part of his loyalist tribe. So he remains in old age, the sort of
the revered,
the Don Emeritus. But I take it very seriously.
Yeah, I mean, because what Tom's actually describing, especially the key point about having put MAGA generals in place, is a full-blown coup d'état.
Yes, because the perhaps underappreciated in thrillers, it's always the U.S. military that leads the coup. They're always the bad guys. Actually, in Trump presidency number 1, it was the generals, Mark Milley, John Kelly, and others, who were the good guys. Yeah. And when things were really heading south before and after January the 6th, it was them saying, we're not going to get involved in, shooting citizens, making calls to people when necessary, quietly, just saying, we are, don't worry, we're keeping an eye on things. Yeah. We do the world owes the US military quite a high command, quite a debt. But you're right. He's obviously his plan is to purge all that lot. Yeah.
Best film around, best American thriller about a military coup d'etat in the States?
Twilight's Last Gleaming, or?
No, wrong answer. I'll give you the right answer. 7 Days in May.
Oh, 7 Days in May. That is better. That's
if
better.
You haven't seen 7 Days in May,
I take it back.
It's absolutely magnificent.
7 Days in May.
Have a look at that. Next question, please.
What advice can the two Matts give to someone who wants to consume more culture? In a typical week, Matt D seems to listen to 5 podcasts, watch 4 films, read 3 books, attend the theatre twice, and visit an arts exhibition. I, on the other hand, barely make it through the end of that week's edition of the New European. What tips can the Matt share on increasing my cultural consumption? Dan from Warwickshire.
Well, the thing you can do is get the job as editor at large of the New European.
I was going to say, I mean, it's very nice of you to say this, Dan, but the honest truth is that I'm,
That's work.
It's better than work. I get to do that because Mr. Matt Kelly, hello, over here without the brackets, pays me to do a culture newsletter, and a lovely thing, great privileges to do too.
But can I say, in your defence, it's not all just lolling about having a great time, is it? It is hard work doing all that.
I mean, hold on a second. I mean,
it's comparable to
mining and working on the docks, or being an intensive.
No, it's harder than
an
that.
ICU nurse is hard work, Matt.
No,
sitting in the Everyman in Moorgate is not hard work. But what I think I would say to this is, I spend probably too much time doing all this, but I love it. I don't think culture should ever be a chore.
Right.
I mean, we both went actually on separate nights to see Nick Cave at the at the O2, and I think we both thought it was, if there is such a thing as a sort of transcendental, it was amazing, wasn't it?
It was extraordinary,
and I really feel that one of the things I've always been opposed to, and I regret about, I think schools get wrong, is they put kids off Shakespeare for life, right? Yeah. And the only thing about which I'm sort of 10% strict is I wish people read more.
Yeah.
By which I don't mean, you've got to read, Dostoevsky. I just mean that in my lifetime, and I'm guilty of this too, because I spend far too much time on my phone and scrolling and God knows what. But the reading habit has definitely declined as a species. This is not aimed at any group of people, and I think that's honestly, a shame.
I've noticed, and I'm worried actually about my capacity to read the length of novels that I used to read. And you recommended in the Booker Prize winner Orbital by Samantha Harvey, and I looked at it, and do you know the first thing I did on Amazon when I looked at it was to see how many pages it was?
No, it's true.
If it was 400 pages, I wasn't going to bother. But it's a novella. It's 130 pages, and I bought it, and I love it. So hopefully I'll read the rest of her work as well.
Well, and I think that bit of cultural consumption is imperiled. Everything else, I think. Watch what you like, watch what you enjoy. I'm always against, and we do culture tips, but not with a kind of wagging finger.
Yeah.
Ever. It should never be sort of you've got to. If you don't go to the opera, you're stupid, or if you don't like this kind of music, no, completely wrong. And I hate people who don't like blockbuster movies.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to make a great popcorn movie. By the way.
Yeah. I took my daughter Sky to watch Gladiator 2.
How did it go?
So I really liked it, and I was entertained. I know you were. You wrote about it. Sky loved it.
Oh, brilliant!
So that was great. But I walked away and I said, if you like that,
if you think that's good,
wait till you see the first one.
And has she seen it?
10 times better. No, so we'll watch it together at some point.
Oh, fantastic!
But I 100% agree with you. It's like. That gets written off as a big blockbuster, but it's not. It's a piece of art,
No, I mean, I've always my bugbear. I hate film critics who only like things directed by André Laborious that have just won the Palme de Tristesse at the Prague Film Festival. That is the worst. I like movies, all movies, right? And that's probably why I watch 4 films a week.
So just to finish this off, because we've warbled on, but do you think there's more? Do you get more satisfaction having completed a novel, a book? Just to explain to anyone who doesn't know what a novel is, a book, than having watched a great movie.
Well, they're totally different. I mean, the book is unique, isn't it? Because it does involve a level. I mean, I think, look, watching an Ingmar Bergman movie ain't no walk in the park, is it? Right. But I suppose the point about reading is it does require concentration, which, as we know, is one of the in very short supply in modern society. So I guess you get more satisfaction. I also think, I mean, by the way, I think that if you're not enjoying a book, stop reading it.
Right, exactly right.
I don't know. At school, we'll all talk. If you don't finish the 97,000 pages of Tolstoy, you're a loser. No, start reading, and if you enjoy it, carry on. If you're not enjoying it, pick up something else.
I used to be one of those kids who'd walk around the street with a book open.
Yes.
And I remember, like it was last week, reading Kingsley Amis' Lucky Jim and being so furious with how terrible I thought it was. I remember throwing it into a bin, angry.
See, that's a really interesting take on Lucky Jim.
Yeah.
Because everybody sort of deferentially says it's angry young man.
I thought it was shit.
It's interesting you say that. I've never understood why that's included under angry young men. Because there is a youngish man in it, but he's not that angry.
I couldn't stand it, honestly.
But you see, there should be more of that.
Yeah.
We should never be deferential.
Dan, thank you for your question. Great conversation. Last question, please. I think we've got time for one more. Nathan in Greenwich writes, I read on social media this week that Barbers are now far right. This is Barber jackets, not Barbers from Morocco.
I assume not, no.
I'm a lifelong Labour voter, but I like wearing my Barber. Do I have to get rid of it now? It's very interesting, from Nathan in Greenwich.
This, I think, comes
I saw
out...
this.
It arose, I'm sure, out of the farmers...
Farage rally. Turning up in a Barber.
Yes, and of course that doesn't do the brand any help. I don't know what you think. I've got quite a militant view on this, which is... So I like Fred Perry shirts.
Yes.
Which was started in the 1950s when I was just leaving school.
Leaving university.
Leaving university. just
with Kingsley Amis.
I think I was editor of the Spectator or something. I really liked them. And then I noticed the alt-right was wearing them. And it really infuriated me because I thought, hang on a minute, you can't have that. And I maintain that position because I don't wear Barbers, but many of my best friends do. And I certainly don't think that, if you're a lifelong Labour voter, Nathan, good luck to you. But if you also like wearing your Barbour and your wellies, good luck to you. I mean, we can't have people claiming these things as uniforms.
It is a funny thing, though, this Farage sort of rural uniform that he adopts. Yes. The sort of tweedy, flat cap, Barbour, checked sort of cotton shirt. And I remember there was a video he put out recently, which made me very, very, even more suspicious of him than I normally am, but I couldn't quite work out why. And it was him in a field picking mushrooms. Did you see this?
I didn't. How revolting.
So he was picking a mushroom. What was weird about it was that he seemed to be demonstrating some actual knowledge of mushrooms.
Right.
And obviously I was sitting there thinking, God, I hope that's a poisonous toadstool. But
yeah.
But he
the
picked
toadstool from heaven.
And he said, you can tell it's a mushroom. He peeled it a bit. And he said, you can tell it's a mushroom because it peels easily and of the smell of it. And he said, fantastic. And I just thought, he's doing something, but I can't work out what it is. And I suspect it was this. He was slipping his way into an affiliation with the rural vote.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it was very entertaining that they wouldn't let him speak.
They told him to piss off.
Which was very good because they let Kemi Badenoch and Ed Davey and Clarkson and Uncle Tom Cobley and all speak, but they wouldn't let Farage on. No. And with good reason, because a lot of reform people are saying, oh, it's deplatforming. No, it's not. It's just because he turns everything to the Nigel Farage show. Yes. And to be fair to the farmers, that wasn't what they were trying to achieve that day, it? But no, I think... the Barber is not a Nazi uniform. I mean, let's get all this in perspective. People who wear Barbers, folks, are not necessarily, your enemy. So, Nathan, you wear your Barber with pride, mate.
Yeah, it's when you see them with black shirts on and jack boots that you need to start getting worried.
That's a bit. I mean, if you'd said I read on social media this week that jack boots are now far right, I think we might have delivered a slightly different. When will?
Why? What do I do in my jack boot collection?
Political correctness gone mad.
Oh Lord. Okay. So Nathan, thank you. Don't throw your Barber away.
No,
it's fine.
But don't be tempted to wear jack boots either, because that's
bad.
That's bad.
That's definitely bad.
God, the analysis we offer.
Thank you, folks, for putting up with us on yet another Sunday. Hope you've enjoyed it. Do send in any questions, emails, feedback, whatever you have, to 2matts@tnepublishing.com. That's the number 2, MATTS, at tnepublishing.com. We do love to hear from you, and we can't answer every email. We get so many.
Pile on.
So many emails.
So many emails. Beautiful emails. I think maybe the most emails any podcast has ever got.
Biggest crowd of emails
people are saying.
And so we do. So if we don't respond, we do read everything. We do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Do subscribe to The New European.
Of course.
Never more important. We do depend on your money as well as your affection.
Yes, give us your money, basically.
Give us your money. Go to theneweuropean.co.uk/2Matts. If you subscribe now, you'll get it for £1 a week for our digital offering and a free copy of Alistair Campbell's Book of Diaries from 2024. So that's exclusive to us. You can't get them anywhere else. Subscribe today, please. Thank you as ever to our team at Rethink Audio, led by Matt Hill, and our assistant Oscar Kelly.
Hey, thank you, Oscar.
Making his debut on the production desk. Thank you, Oscar. Great job.
Thank you, Oscar.
And until Monday.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.